What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast. In this episode, I just want to catch up with you guys, let you know what's been going on with me. Also want to break down this recent blog from Infinite Discs talking about their disc sales and the effect that Paul Mcbeth is having on Discraft, because I think that's pretty interesting. And it's something that we touched on quite a bit back in the off season when all this news was coming out. I kind of made my predictions as to what I think might happen. I should probably go back and look at that and see how wrong I was, or if I got anything right in any of those type of predictions and the stuff that I talked about regarding the way things were going to go with Paul moving and all that kind of stuff. It's been pretty interesting. The season has been been very fun to watch. I feel like I'm not quite as invested in the professional side of it as I used to be, or just, I don't know. I'm feeling a little bit disconnected from the tournament scene. I'm not as into the coverage as I was. It seems a little more sparse maybe. Last year it was really concise, and every weekend we were seeing stuff come out from CCDG and Jomaz and stuff, and it's been a little bit more spread out maybe this season. I don't know. It's hard to put my finger on it, but I just don't feel quite as invested in the professional side of things as I usually do at this time of year. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that Ricky's not having the best season, and he hasn't been pulling in a lot of wins and stuff, which usually is what I'm looking for to happen. But I love just watching the golf. Of course, it's not all about that, but I do like it better when Rick wins. I was a little bit disappointed by the outcome of the European Open. The final round did not go according to plan for Rick or his fan base, and that was just kind of rough. But honestly, it's pretty hard to deny that Paul Mcbeth is back to being the number one player in the world. There's not really any meaningful debate in that at this point, I think. Again, you can always get back to the argument of if everybody's playing their absolute best, who's the best. I have no idea. It could be Eagle, it could be Paul, it could be Rick. It's probably Paul. He seems like he's the most consistent, and it's always those longer events that he just seems to have that edge. The longer he has to kind of make up ground, he will just keep playing consistent and chipping away. And I think he was 6 strokes behind going into the final round of the European Open, and leapfrogged everybody and took it down. So, personal catch up with me. Have not been posting nearly as much as I want to. I apologize for that. I appreciate your continued support. I have actually surpassed 7,000 subscribers here on YouTube. Stay tuned. Probably by the time this episode is live, I would imagine I will have already posted my 7,000 subscribers giveaway contest. My good friend in the disc golf world, Chris Caulfield, he's always been such a huge supporter of my channel in so many ways, and he actually sent me some discs to give away to you guys. He's got a bunch of plastic laying around, and he hooked me up with a sweet prize package, so he is sponsoring my 7,000 subscribers giveaway, and I am hugely grateful for that. So huge shout out to Chris once again. He's just, always been there for me in a multitude of ways, and I truly appreciate his support, and I truly appreciate all of you guys for subscribing to my channel, for watching the videos, for listening to this show, etc. All of it means a lot to me, and I appreciate you guys very much. So stay tuned for a pretty substantial 7,000 subscribers giveaway contest coming up very soon. Again, by the time this episode goes live, it will either be posted or will be a day or two away from being posted. I believe the package showed up today, so as soon as I can get my hands on that and actually film a quick video to announce it. So stay tuned for that, and you'll have a chance to win some sweet plastic. I might actually break it up into a couple of different, a grand prize and then a runner-up prize or something, just to kind of spread the love a little bit more. But we'll see. We'll see what I decide to do based on what I got. I forget exactly what he said he was going to send me. So once it gets here, we'll see. But I know it's definitely some sweet plastic, and you guys will be excited, I'm sure. So moving on from that, I have still kept the ball rolling. I'm still testing plastic. I'm still trying to get it all filmed up. My schedule is not lining up nearly as well as I'd like to get all that done. Summertime living as well. I'm trying to go swimming and get my raft in the water and do the other things that I like to do over the summer with the little bit limited time that I have to do so. So as much as I am trying to test plastic and get it all done, I'm a little bit behind. So stay tuned, though. I have a lot of stuff right on the edge. I just need to get one more good field testing session in, and I'll be able to review the new Discmania stuff from Yikun, the Tiger Warrior, and I believe it's the Spirit Fox. I have both of those. solid molds. Enjoying it. That Tiger Warrior is a really great disc. We really enjoyed testing that. Andy was in love with that disc during our field session filming it. So yeah, it's a really, really solid flyer. So stay tuned for that. Also have the Paul Mcbeth Onyx from Discraft. I have the Guard from Latitude or Dynamic Discs. I also have the DD Raider. I have a Lisa Fakis Corvette. I have all kinds of stuff in my testing stock that I'm working on, and you guys know I'll get to it relatively soon. But yeah, I think one more field testing session and a little bit more filming, I'll be ready to go on the Onyx, the Guard, the Prodigy MX3 that Anthony hooked me up with to review as well, and the new Discmania stuff. All that'll be pretty much ready to rock relatively soon. I'm heading out to Stubbs Stewart State Park, one of my favorite places in the world, coming up here this weekend. I'll be playing some golf out there in the woods. Probably bring the camcorder, maybe catch some flights of the putters flying out there, and then I'll be able to finish those reviews once I get back to town. Only just a quick overnight out there, but I absolutely love that place. If you're interested in what it looks like and a little bit more detail on Stubbs Stewart, it's a place I mention often on the show. I think is just one of my favorite spots to be and one of my favorite courses in the world. You can check out, I made a little mini video blog about Stubbs Stewart and a trip that we took out there, me and my wife, last winter. And you can find that on my channel. Just search for Stubbs Stewart, Disc Golf Nerd. It should be pretty easy to find. You can also find a My Favorite Hole on the Course episode that I filmed out there as well, chronicling hole 7, which I was able to ace, I think, what was it, last year, 2018. I landed a amazing ace on that shot that I'm still buzzed about. It's still to date the best shot I've ever thrown. So stay tuned for lots more reviews coming up soon, and my 7,000 subscribers giveaway contest. Another really fun thing that happened. I was watching Idlewild yesterday, and a lot of people are sending in super chats, and Robert McCall and Dixon Jowers were on the call. Both of them have been on this podcast before. Dixon quite recently. Robert was one of the first guests I ever had. I'm hoping to connect with him for another kind of catch-up interview with Andy. Maybe we can figure out some kind of a fun bracket or something to make Robert play, or something along those lines, and just check in with Robert. He's just a great dude. He's really easy to talk to, and I like him a lot. So hopefully he can come back on the show and say what's up, see what's going on with him. Anyway, so they are on the commentary team for the Idlewild Open. They did a phenomenal job, just really high quality commentary. I really loved the chemistry between the two of them. They really bring the energy to it. They really get excited. You can feel that excitement. And they just did a phenomenal job. They were reading super chats as they came in. So you can click the little button during a live stream. There's a little money sign there, and you can send in $2, $3, you know, whatever you want. I think somebody had sent in like a pretty substantial one. You know, send in $100 if you want to, if you got it to spend, whatever. It's just a donation to the Disc Golf Pro Tour and the kind of the efforts to bring you guys high quality live coverage of these high quality events. Anyway, so I sent in a $3 super chat with a quote from one of our episodes with Dixon Jowers. It said, "Kale is a beautiful man." So check this out. I actually pulled the audio off of the broadcast to play for you guys here. If Steve Dodge or anybody in the Pro Tour hears this and doesn't like the fact that I used it, I don't want to like bug Steve about it. I don't think it's a big deal. But if for whatever reason anybody over there at the Pro Tour hears this and doesn't like that I use this little clip on my show, just let me know. I will trim it out and I'll repost the episode without it. But I don't think it'll be a problem. But here, check this out. I thought this was really funny.
Another super chat coming in from Disc Golf Nerd, $3. He's quoting Dixon Jowers. He says, "Kale is a beautiful man," says Dixon Jowers.
Who's going to disagree with me on that?
Not me.
And by the way, this is a reference to Disc Golf Nerd. I was on their podcast, and he asked me to give my opinions on this bracket that they had made up of most beautiful man in disc golf. So I mean, like, that goes to Kale, right? I mean,
I would say so.
Yeah. Now, I mean, we do have the fresh-faced Jay Conrad here, throwing his hat into the ring.
Oh, the bracket's drawn up, and James says, "Hold my beard."
So there you have it. I always love those kind of interactions. That's what's really fun for me about the disc golf community, about the internet. There's so much access to contact people and connect and have fun in various ways that just weren't really a thing years ago. You know, you could never do something like that with a regular golf event or a basketball game or something like that. It's just not part of the deal. So I love that disc golf is like growing and it's getting bigger all the time. All that's great, but I also love how small and kind of intimate it can be as well. It just really works out nicely, and I love. I just love it. I love that kind of stuff. It really made me laugh. I didn't expect. I wasn't sure. You know, I wasn't sure if they would actually mention what that was referencing, or if Dixon would just get a chuckle out of it or whatever. But I really liked the little shout out there, and I had a big laugh. I especially like how at the end you can tell that they're both laughing. It gets quiet in the booth, and then you can hear just like the little hint of a giggle afterwards. Oh, that made me really happy. Okay, so moving on. InfiniteDiscs.com/blog. Recent post that they posted. The hot disc brands of 2019. There's some interesting information here. If you want to just go read the whole thing, I'm not going to read it, you know, word for word. I'm just going to touch on a few of the different aspects of this, but it is definitely interesting and mostly talking about Paul Mcbeth and the impact that he has had on Discraft in the short time that he's been there. Now, it's not all about Paul. He is far and away the most important factor here, but Discraft has also upped their media game. They've also brought in Paul Ulibarri, who's a big fan favorite. They also brought in a number of other team players that are doing well, Brian Earhart and Chandler Fry and Reed Frescura and a bunch of other great players that they now have on their team. Adam Hammis is on the team now. Who am I forgetting here? There's a lot of, you know, high-level players that have been brought to Discraft over this last offseason, and they're all having an impact on the course. They're doing well, they're being visible, and all of that is no doubt contributing to the huge bump that we've seen from Discraft. Now, you guys know, any of my long-term viewers know that I've been a huge Discraft supporter pretty much since day one. My first discs were Innova, but after I started kind of purchasing my own discs and looking into, you know, I got a couple of Innova discs that my wife got me at a local retailer called Big Five. It's like a sporting goods store chain, and my wife got me a few discs there for Christmas. Those were the first two discs I ever got. But once I started like looking into what I wanted to buy and expand my line from there, it was a mix of Discraft and Innova. The original name of this channel was Discraft and Innova. That's still the email address associated with this channel. I changed that because I eventually switched to an all Discraft bag. Now, this was many years ago at this point, and I was throwing nothing but Discraft. I threw soft magnets, of course, that I still throw. I was using, I think, a Banger GT at some point in there. That was one of the early putters that I ever used. And forces and surges and stalkers and all that kind of stuff. Buzzes, of course. I was throwing a lot of that. A drone for a while. And there were definitely multiple times in my kind of playing career that I threw nothing but Discraft. So you guys know that I've been around it for a long time. I've also been quite vocal about the lack of media that they've put out over the last several years. They really kind of let it slip right around the time that the big Prodigy Dynamic Discs changeover happened. Everything kind of fell apart for them. They kind of got, I think they got a little bit upset and frustrated that so many of their players moved on to Prodigy, and some of them moved on to Dynamic Discs, and the whole thing that switched around there. I think they got a little bit frustrated, and they more or less went dormant for a while, waiting for a new opportunity to come back in and strike when Discraft and disc golf in general had kind of grown a little bit more. They kind of used some of the money internally to dial in their manufacturing process. They've, of course, been a huge player in the Ultimate world, making a ton of money off of the official Ultimate discs that are being produced. The Ultra Stars are, you know, the standard disc to be used in Ultimate across the world. So they kind of focused on that, and they waited for a time to get back in. If that was the plan from day one, and that's just what I've heard, it seems to be working out very well. So let's take a look at this. So there's some graphs on here that are interesting, and there's some articles. You know, there's an article associated with it as well that you can read. I might read some of that. But taking a look at the graph here for 2018, the top brands, Innova by a huge margin, 38.4%. Discraft only making up 6.9% of sales. This is just based on Infinite Discs. They are, I believe, the largest retailer in the country, in the world right now. So it is still a very, valid piece of information. Obviously, a lot of people go straight to dynamicdiscs.com to buy their discs and that sort of thing. But still, they, of course, have a strong sense of what's going on as the biggest retailer that we have in our sport. Dynamic Discs, 9.8%, and Discmania, 9.9%. Only a few, it's actually 9.88 for Discmania and 9.82 for Dynamic. So they're almost splitting that pretty equally. And then you have, smaller brands like Gateway and Streamline making up 1-2%. Prodigy, 2%. So all these kind of companies not really doing a whole lot. Latitude 64 was 7% and MVP 5.5. So Innova dominating the market, like hands down here. And Discraft, not even second, not even third, not even fourth, not even, even Latitude was above them as well. Now, through the first half here, now I'm reading from the article, through the first half of 2019, Discraft sales have nearly tripled. The introduction of the Kong or the Zeus was the hottest disc release they ever had. Sales of the Onyx and the Luna are almost just as hot. While Innova is still number one, Discraft has sold more discs than the number 3 and 4 brands combined. The sales difference gap between Innova and Discraft was less than 13% during the first half of 2019, compared to 31.5% difference during the same time period a year ago. Right? So bringing out Paul has made, and all the different changes that they've made, has made an enormous difference. So now Discraft is up to 18% of sales for Infinite Discs. Innova is at 31%, so they're still, doing the best by far, but yeah, they've dropped a little bit. Discraft has definitely picked up. Could that be a direct representation of players moving from Innova to Discraft because of Paul? That's absolutely possible. And then Dynamic, 8.6%. Discmania dropped a little bit to 8.1%. MVP up slightly. Latitude down slightly. Infinite Discs own brand doing pretty well. We also see Prodigy has taken a little bit of a jump. So looking at the sales declines, so we have Discraft made a huge jump. 200, wait a second, sales change percentage. So yeah, and Discraft has made a huge jump here. Innova has gone down a little bit. Discmania has gone down a little bit. And then Westside has taken quite a hit, and Latitude has also gone down. So that could easily be a representation of what we're seeing with the lack of Ricky Wysocki. So we'll get to that in just one more second. Among the larger brands we sell, Innova and Discmania have seen a slight decline in sales during the off-season. Discmania made significant changes by also manufacturing with Latitude and Yikun. With these changes, I was surprised to see Discmania sales declined. If they had sufficient stock of the DD3s to meet our buyers' demand, I'm pretty sure Discmania would not have appeared on the list of declining brands. So what they're saying is, if they actually made enough cloud breakers to actually support the market and the amount of people that actually want them, they would have done better. So I don't understand the scarcity of the Discmania plastic. That whole thing has never made sense to me. Why can't they just have as much as they want? I've seen for years people can't find max weight P2s for whatever reason. Well, what's so hard about making putters, and I don't know. I didn't look to see if I could find them or if they're really that scarce or people just having trouble finding them. I really don't know, but I know that the cloud breakers all sold out instantaneously, and people are selling them on Facebook for triple, quadruple retail, which just makes me sick. And the whole thing was just kind of ridiculous. And so why don't they just make enough for what the market can bear, for what their customers want? It just seems very strange. It must be some kind of an issue with Innova and their manufacturing schedule, and I don't get it. It's very strange to me. That's why I was really surprised when this whole Latitude Yikun thing happened, because I really expected Discmania to bring molding in-house. That was my guess as to what they were alluding to when they were talking about big changes, yada yada. That's where my head went to. I even mentioned that on the show. Like, that's exactly what I thought was going to happen. I thought that would make a lot of sense. Maybe they purchased some of the more prominent molds from Innova, and they're going to use them to manufacture their own plastic on their own schedule and have that ability. But I guess, I mean, that would be a huge undertaking. You know, it's much easier said than done, obviously. So maybe that was not an option in the first place. I have no idea. But yeah, if they had enough of the discs that people want in stock, it would have been a different story. So that's just kind of shooting themselves in the foot there, which is interesting. The biggest hit taken on brand preference in 2019 among our customers appears to be a decreased demand for Latitude and Westside. Our online sales for Latitude 64 were down 17%, while Westside dropped almost 25%. One likely reason for a decrease in sales of these brands is the loss of Ricky Wysocki as a Latitude-sponsored player. During the first 6 months of 2018, the West Side Harp, which obviously was Ricky's go-to disc, was our number 11 selling disc. During the same period of 2019, it dropped all the way down to 26. The Explorer dropped from 36 to 62, and the Dagger dropped from 47 all the way to 92. Meanwhile, the Innova Pig went from being our 175th best-selling disc in 2018 to 45th best-selling disc during the first half of 2019. Despite the loss of Paul Mcbeth, the Ricky Wysocki Signature Destroyer has helped that disc remain as our top-selling disc of 2019. The addition of Ricky Wysocki to Team Innova undoubtedly lightened the blow of losing Paul Mcbeth. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So the Destroyer, still the number one. And yeah, it's not surprising. Overall, Ricky's still a big name, and the Destroyer is still an extremely well-loved disc. It's probably the top high-speed distance driver of all time in sales and for the amount of people using them, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I feel like if you're an Innova player, there's no doubt you're going to have a Destroyer somewhere in your system. You know, whether it's an overstable disc that you throw into headwinds because you don't have a big arm, or if you're kind of average arm to above average arm speed, it'll probably be your go-to disc for distance. It's just one of the all-time classics. It just continues to work extremely well. And even with the Zeus and the Cloudbreaker and all those discs are all very similar to the Destroyer overall. All right. So Dynamic saw a little bit of an increase. MVP and Axiom is growing, doing quite well. Prodigy saw an impressive sales increase of 43%. Some of this increase can be attributed to the success of their pros, particularly Kevin Jones, who's having a great year, becoming one of the most liked players on tour. Yeah, shout out to Kevin Jones, man. He is just such a nice dude, and he is really fun to watch. He's super entertaining. He's got energy for days, and I think he will be he's already one of the best players in the world. I think we will see him continue to do well, place very well, take down wins, and increase his skill and his game overall as time goes on. He's just a really great player and seems like a really nice dude as well. Also, Seppo has had a lot of visibility with his video blogs. He's been doing commentary, and he's been putting himself out there a lot more, and I'm sure that has an effect on the Prodigy Discs sales overall as well. Let's see. Gateway, which has made a big emphasis on improving their premium plastic look and feel, saw a modest increase of 5%. Most of the smaller disc brands also saw an increase in our online sales, with the exceptions being Legacy, Heiserbomb, and Viking discs. The primary reason for the reduction in Viking sales is our inability to order more of these discs from Finland. We have been in need of a major restock for most of the year, and we can't sell discs we don't have. Yeah. Like, you can't sell Cloudbreakers if you don't have them. Pretty interesting. So, I just thought that was interesting to actually take a look at that and to see, you know, how Paul and the changes for bringing in Paul Mcbeth and Paul Ulibarri and all the different branding and marketing and all the different things that Discraft has been put into place in their new tour series, their incredible swirly plastic that they're putting out, and all these different aspects of it are going into making Discraft one of the top players again. It's basically back to where it was when I started playing, where Innova was the big dog and Discraft was second, but it was, there wasn't much other companies to really compete with either of them in those days. Now we have all these other options, but we're still seeing Innova and Discraft hold it down. And I feel like that's pretty much where it should be, just based on the fact that they were the two original companies pushing our game and kind of made our game what they are together through competing with each other, creating incredible plastic, pushing the market through competition with one another. And all these other brands have kind of come along and more or less taken little ideas and kind of released their variations of popular molds from Innova and Discraft and kind of built their lines around that. I'm not saying everybody does that. A lot of companies have very unique products, but a lot of other companies and other discs are very similar to other discs that are already on the market. That's just kind of how it works with disc golf, and it always has. And it's interesting to me when people are like, oh, that disc looks just like this, or that disc is just a ripoff of this disc. It's like, dude, welcome to disc golf. There's always going to be molds that are very similar to other molds. There's always going to be a mold that was created and inspired by a different mold. And that's just kind of how the game works. It's not really a big problem. I mean, there's plenty of room for everybody to have their own type of a T-Bird, or to have multiple companies that have a disc that's very similar to a Buzz. I don't really see that much of a problem with it. If you really want to try to find the original there, you might be able to. Chances are it comes from either Innova or Discraft. If you're trying to find the original of the overstable fairway driver, it's probably the Firebird. So if that's what you want, then maybe that's what you should throw. But at the same time, you could throw a Raptor, you could throw a Pioneer, you could throw a Felon. There's all kinds of different options out there that fill those different roles and give people different options for what they can carry, what they can throw, based on the plastics they like, the brands they want to support, the players they want to support. And I think that's all good there. There's plenty of room for everybody as far as I'm concerned. And if you're not making that work, then you need to switch it up and see what else you can do and try to bring something unique to the market. But ultimately, those classic type of discs, the Destroyer type disc, the Buzz type disc, a beaded mid-range like a Rock, all those types of discs are always going to be popular and they're going to sell, and it kind of makes sense for you to have a disc like that. That's why we have, KC AVRs and Wizards and Judges and those type of similar beaded putters. It just makes sense. People want them, so why not have that available in your line? So it's interesting to see the actual effect there. And if you guys want to go read the full article, you can do so on infinitediscs.com. So not a whole lot else to report on my end. I don't feel like I'm really throwing very well of late. I feel like my form may be a little wonky. I'm not quite putting as much power on my shots as I want to, but I'm also not playing very much. I'm a little bit frustrated by it as well, because usually by summertime I've been playing a lot of golf and I'm loose and I'm down 15 pounds, 20 pounds or something that I was over the winter, and I'm just kind of throwing good and I'm feeling good and I'm getting a lot of throws in and I'm doing a lot of field testing. I'm playing a lot of rounds. Just really hasn't worked out for me this summer for whatever reason. It's hard to put my finger on it. I am working nights, so that basically just destroys those days. It just eats that entire day. I go in at 2 and I get out at 9:30, and the whole day is shot. So unless I get up super early and try to run out and play in the morning, which I'm not really super into doing based on the fact that I go to bed late and I wake up and I have to be at work in the afternoon, it's just totally ruining my whole vibe. And I don't think I'm going to be sticking with it too much longer. We'll see, but it's not really something that I like doing, and I think I can do better for myself, so I think I will. But I think that's definitely a big part of it, because, usually in the summertime, if I'm working days like I want to be, I get out at 3, 4 o'clock and I have the whole afternoon to run out to Vance and play around, or to sneak out to Dabney or Rooster in the evening and play around and watch the sunset or whatever. And that's not really happening this summer. So I either go on my days off or I don't go at all. And I'm just not playing nearly as much as I want to. So it's frustrating because usually by this time of the summer, I'm feeling pretty dialed in. I'm throwing a little farther. I'm loose. And I'm not feeling that way at all when I get on the course lately. I'm feeling like I'm throwing very weak. I'm not getting as much distance. And I'm just feeling very tight and kind of sluggish out there. And it's really frustrating me. So hopefully shake that off relatively soon and get back into decent throwing form. I don't know. There's plenty of golf to be played all year round here in Oregon, so it's not like I need to be making sure I get in a ton of rounds during the summer because I'm going to be snowed in all winter. Like, I play all year, so it's really not that big of a deal. It's just, it is what it is, something that is worth mentioning, I guess, as far as a personal update for me. I am definitely enjoying testing a lot of these newer discs, though. I really like the Prodigy MX3. I have one in 400 series plastic that I'll be bringing to review relatively soon. It's a really nice neutral straight flying disc that holds a lot of angles, feels great in the hand. I love that beaded mid-range feel. And if you're a Prodigy player and you're into that, or if you're looking to try out some Prodigy plastic and you haven't done so, I would definitely recommend checking out an MX3. It's a really nice mid-range that I think a lot of players can get good use out of. Basically, anybody could use the disc and have a functional flight. If you have more of a power arm, you're going to throw it, more a little bit hyzer flip type shots, or just nice and flat and smooth. And if you're a lower arm speed player, it might behave a little bit more stable for you, but it's still going to be a nice straight flying disc. With a little bit more fade probably once it starts to slow down. For me, it's just laser straight to neutral, and I definitely dig it quite a bit. The Yikun stuff, I don't want to say it surprised me because I kind of expected it to be solid, but it flies really nice, and the plastic grips really well. It's really kind of rubbery, grippy. It feels great in the hand, and I like it a lot. It's definitely not the most durable plastic. Like, we had a curb hit on one of the putters. It flipped and hit the curb, and you're going to see that it definitely took some damage on the edge. But, any baseline is going to do that if it hits concrete with any speed. It's always going to take some hit. And that's kind of the point of these discs, is to be inexpensive, kind of more beginner type discs. Or the putter, the Tiger Warrior is a phenomenal disc that also would be extremely useful for all skill levels. If you have a lot of power, like Eagle McMahon's throwing it, he's got a huge arm, obviously one of the top arms of all time, and he can throw it super straight and smooth, very consistent, accurate. For me, it's a little bit more stable, but I can still throw it with everything I got, and it actually seems to fly somewhere like a rat, kind of like a broken in zone type flight, where it's like overstable but not really overstable, where it'll fly really straight but has a consistent finish, but you can snap it hard and it won't flip on you. And I think anybody from beginners could use it for those really nice smooth hyzer layups. Like, I would use a caltrup or like a zone kind of approach with a nice like stable finish, so you can just throw that smooth hyzer to the basket for layups and approaches, and then all the way up to, top arms can use it for a really straight flying throwing putter as well. So always finding that basically all the stuff that I end up testing has merit and flies good and has an interesting vibe to it and is useful for some type of shot. Now, whether or not that aligns with what you're looking for is a different story entirely, but that's part of the fun of disc golf, is to figure out what you like and test some different things and see what works, see what doesn't work, and develop your game. And sometimes you find a new disc that does a new thing and it's really exciting. You can add that to your arsenal, and it just makes it that much more fun to have more options out there and different things that you can do. And I love it. It's always been a lot of fun testing plastic, and I still enjoy it today. I've done so many reviews now, over 200, and no real sign of slowing down too much. I have a stack of discs I'm looking at right now that I need to finish up testing this weekend, hopefully, like we talked about earlier. And I have at least a handful of other ones in the stock. I think I have a Ricky T-Bird 3 I intend to review as well, and a few other things. I still have the Getaway that I have not quite finished up testing yet, that put a little bit on the back burner to kind of prioritize the Raider and the Guard a little bit, and get those out as soon as I can. And always fun to test out plastic, and it's always, interesting to see how the new molds are flying and how they're feeling, and see how the new plastic blends are evolving over time, because they're always changing and being developed further by the different manufacturers. And yeah, it's a lot of fun nerding out on plastic like I do. So I think I'm going to let you guys go with one more thing. If you have a question for me, or if you have a question for Andy, or even if you have a question for Dion Arlen, one of the farthest throwers in the world, if you have like a technique or like a distance throwing question for him, or anything along those lines, as a professional, high level, long time professional player that you think he might be able to help you out with, I'm sure I could get him on the phone and help him and help you guys out with some questions. I definitely intend to do a full question and answer episode coming up soon. So shoot me an email, discgolfnerd1@gmail.com, with any questions that you guys have that you want to have read on the show. I may actually make that part of the 7,000 subscribers giveaway contest as well, where I'll have you guys submit questions in the Google form for that, because I love to be able to go through and answer your guys' questions, see if I can help. And again, if you have a question specific to Andy or Dion or anything like that, I'm sure I could get them to join me to go through some of these questions as well. So thank you so much for your continued support. Thanks for listening. I will check you all very soon. All right. Cheers. Thank you so much for watching, and big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. If you would like to see your name listed in the credits of all of my videos, go to patreon.com/discgolfnerd.